Nancy Drew presents Down in the Basement. This episode contains a lot of information that I found through my research and disinformation and honesty and dishonesty. And none of it is my opinion. Those people who went into the basement first was Sergeant Rickenbach at around 6:15 a.m. Fleet White around 6:25 a.m. Then the crime scene photographer, Officer Barry Weiss at about 7:30 a.m. after he had taken the photographs on the second floor and then the Ramsey's bedroom, and then down on the first floor he went down to the basement. Officer Rick French went down to the basement around 8:30 a.m., but I'm not sure if he went to the train room. And then finally, according to John Ramsey, just before 10 a.m., he didn't put a time, John went down to the basement. Perfect murder, perfect town. Right before 10 a.m., alone, John Ramsey went downstairs to the basement where Officer French had searched for his daughter. In the room where his son Burke's train set was kept, Ramsey found a broken open window. He closed it before going back upstairs. Here's a still of the basement area by the door going to the wine cellar and the door going into the train room. The wine cellar door is to the left, the train room to the right. And you can see that there's a table, a drum table, a round table, right in the doorway going into the train room. And here you can see that the basement is quite a mess. Stage 1 hoarding. And if you were an intruder and entered through that basement window, you would first have to try to find a light, because I don't think the Ramseys left a light on for the intruder. And you would only have your flashlight to move about the room down there. You'd have to avoid stepping on one of those markers or the electrical cord or all the other items that are down there. Here's a little short passage from John Ramsey's police interview. I think that the door is blocked by this drum table. Here's the chair I said was brought to the door, and it's not. I moved the chair to get into the door. If this was taken before I was down there, well, I put it back. When I went down there, that chair was kind of blocking that entrance right there. So if I understand what John Ramsey is saying, is that chair there on the left there was over by the passageway, the doorway to the train room, and he moved it aside and then maybe squeezed by that round table. Here on the top, during John Ramsey's police interview, he says the window was open 1/8 of an inch and he latched it closed. But in his book, he says the window was open and there was a suitcase under it, and he doesn't say anything about it being open only 1/8 of an inch and that he latched it. Ramsey related his break-in through the window from the previous summer, and they both checked around for more glass. It was not clear from either of the men's later interviews whether they had opened the window as they looked for more glass, but Ramsey stated that both men got down on the floor to check for signs that the window hadn't been broken again. Preparing to leave the room, they moved a fireplace grate to check another closet. And Ramsey then moved out of the room and down the hallway towards the wine cellar. White was replacing the grate when he heard John Ramsey cry out, "Oh my God." So here's a look at that wine cellar door and that little block above it that you turn to latch it closed. And Patsy said when you opened that wine cellar door, it dragged on the carpet. Perfect murder, perfect town. At the detective's request, John Ramsey provided a handwriting sample as well as shopping lists and writing pads that contained his and his wife's handwriting. One of the pads contained ruled white paper, similar to the ransom note paper. Here is an interesting pair of photographs. The one on the left was taken Christmas morning, and the one on the right was taken the morning of December 26th. So they're about 24 hours apart. And if you look at the one on the left, it has one of those notepads. And that is John Ramsey's notepad. That's not the one that the ransom note came from. And you can see it's missing on December 26th because John gave his notepad to Detective Fred Patterson, obviously before this photograph was taken. And then what's interesting, if you look in the background, that plastic bag of clothes. On Christmas morning, it was kind of pushed back. But on the day after Christmas, it was pulled forward for some reason. That means someone moved it closer to the spiral staircase. And so when would that have happened? And why? Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and that goose back there doesn't want to get involved at all. This disconcerting situation.